guys competed to the final whistle.
Quarterback Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions in the game. Was asked what happened to the Packers offense in losses to Minnesota, Chicago, and now Philadelphia.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Thanks for tuning into the Todd Allbaugh Show on Monday, January 13th. We have a little over 2 minutes until we begin the show.
It pretty much just comes down to executing and making plays out there, and just wasn't good enough.
NBA, the Bucks losing to the Knicks 140-106. New York's Jalen Brunson with 41 points. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
Sunny and cold today, with high temperatures tapping the mid-teens and winds blustery, whipping up to 30 miles per hour, creating frigid wind chills where we're really feeling sub-zero all day, and a chance of a few flurries flying around late. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 10 degrees at our studios.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Here's what the WSJ had said after J6. This week has probably finished Donald Trump as a serious political figure. Boy, that hasn't aged well, has it?
No, not at all. In the Wall Street Journal. So after what they just said 4 years ago, Maggie, they couldn't bring it upon themselves to say that guy who did that shouldn't be anywhere near the White House again. Nope, couldn't do it.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the whoops. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home,
30 seconds.
somebody
Thank
call
you.
me a ride.
Love that.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our outstanding producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Monday, January 13th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite as the sun has come out amongst around most of Wisconsin. Nip is in the air, but Mr. Zommers, it's January. So what do we expect?
Yeah, this is what we expect.
Right, exactly. And, for our ag community, for our tourism community, it would be good to get some snow. Understand that maybe parts of the state may be in line for some snow a little bit later. But boy, it is dry out there. And as weird as it sounds in the middle of winter to say we are under drought conditions, that's exactly what we're going for. And we could really use some precipitation for our ag and tourism community. So we hope that is on the way. But bundle up. Like I say, it's January. What can we expect? And it's good. It's good to have this cold weather because it does great things for nature. A lot of certain insects need to be frozen out to kind of equal things out. And also good for sickness. A lot of these germs need that cold to kind of like stop it. So I welcome the cold.
Yeah, it's part of the natural flow of the seasons.
Yes, absolutely. Very unnatural last night or yesterday afternoon if you were a Packer fan, because all season long the Packers looked pretty good overall. And, we were just out in Seattle 3 weeks ago, saw them out there. They looked fantastic. Boy, you lose to the Vikings, you lose at home to the Bears. And yesterday the Packers lost to the Philadelphia Eagles by a score of 22-10 in the wild card division. The Packers season has come to an end. Did you watch any of the game?
I did. And every time the camera went over to Matt LaFleur, he just looked dead. He looked so sad.
Well, I thought the whole team kind of looked...
They did.
They just looked flat. I mean, Nixon fumbles the opening kickoff and return, and Philadelphia takes it in for a touchdown. It's 7-0 before it even began, basically.
And that's not good for morale.
No, and they lost, basically the receiving core. Their center went down for the Packers. It was just injury after injury. But overall, I just didn't think the Packers looked fired up and ready to go. I think there'll be a lot of questions for the Packers. Still one of not the youngest team in the NFL. Lots of opportunity. Look, you look at LaFleur's record. I mean, still one of the best coaches in the NFL. But they've got to in this draft. By the way, coming up in April in Wisconsin, in Green Bay, the NFL draft. And so you're going to have the draft up there. They've got to get some help. Greg, watching on YouTube, says, get a new coach. Respectfully disagree, Greg. If you look at what LaFleur has done in general, I think he's a fine coach. Greg says, Malik Willis for quarterback for the rest of whatever. Again, respectfully disagree. Malik Willis is a great backup quarterback, but a healthy, again, I don't think that Jordan Love, watching him play yesterday, was back to 100%. He's kind of been dinged up all year. So Love is still a quarterback of the future. LaFleur is the coach of the future. I got no problem. It's just they've got to get some help receiving. They've got for the offense, and certain other places they need some help on.
I agree with Tony.
Tony says last year they got hot at the right time. This year they suffered too many injuries and got ice cold. Good team, great coach, bad timing. Again, I agree with Tony as well. Look, I mean, the cliche, that's the way the ball bounces. That's just one of those things where and the Eagles are a very good team. They're a very good team. They can make a deep run in this, I think. So, hey, it was a fun season. Go Pack Go for next season. And again, a lot of things are not going to shut down in Green Bay this year during the off season, quote unquote, because they're hosting the draft at Lambeau Field and Titletown District coming up in April. So lots of excitement still around the Packers. And also many thanks. A shout out to our great sports reporter, Mike Clemens. Nobody covers the Packers from an insider perspective. Nobody puts it down in ways we can understand it and brings us accurate, great inside information like Mike Clemens day in, day out. Thank you to him for all the work, for all the travel, and for the great coverage here at Civic Media and elsewhere. Mike Clemens always getting it done. And of course, now he kind of turns his focus. He covers the Bucks for us as well, and Wisconsin and Marquette basketball. So he'll keep doing it. And, next month, pitchers and catchers report for the Brewers down in Arizona. Mike Clemens will continue to do that as well. So many thanks to Mike Clemens for his great job. Off the text line, Andrew in Maine, listening on WAUK, says the Packers will have their opportunity maybe in 2030. Come on now. Andrew also says not everyone can be the 2024 Lions. Well, that's true. I mean, the Lions, they just look unstoppable. Of course, they got the bye this week, so we'll see if this coming week the Lions can continue that big mo. Larry, listening in Deerfield on WMDX, says Josh Jacobs did not look flat. There is hope, folks. 100% agree. Josh Jacobs is one who really was engaged, kept fighting all the way to the end. So, yes, there are definitely some bright spots, Larry, and to all our Packer fans out there, including myself. Look, I'm still optimistic. As Tony said earlier, it just wasn't the Packers' year. We'll talk more about that later on this week with Trygve Olsen, one of those Packer owners, when he joins the show here, I believe, on Thursday of this week. So, also in the college football scene, your national championship matchup is set. It will be Notre Dame facing the Ohio State University, as Ohio State was able to get the win on Friday night. So it'll be Notre Dame versus Ohio State 1 week from tonight. Next Monday, huge day and night. You got the Trump inauguration at high noon in D.C., 11 o'clock our time. And then you've got the college football national championship that evening on ESPN. So, big day.
Mentioning the Ohio State University reminds me, Charlie Barons has a video he put out recently, a short little video where he's wearing an Ohio State sweater or jersey or something.
Really?
And saying all these good things. He's like, I've really come to love Ohio and their football team. And I've fallen in love with somebody who goes there. And, it's just spending time there. I've come to love Ohio State University. And at that moment, a red dot from like a laser pointer of a sniper appears on his forehead. And he's like, the Ohio State University. Did I do good?
The Buckeye fans they're very sensitive about calling
it's like a hostage situation.
The Ohio State University, not just Ohio State. So there you go. Also, some big show today coming up in hour 2. We'll give you a chance on what's worse, to call in, let your voices be heard. Today's subject, driving. Driving. So tune in for hour 2 to talk about that. It's a full moon tonight, the wolf moon. We'll talk about that a little bit. And what else we got going on? TikTok. Looks like that could go away very soon. Former Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher was talking about that on CBS. Going to have a cut from him talking about social media influencers and the market. TikTok leading the way at 56%. The Pete Hegseth confirmation coming up for Defense Secretary in Washington, D.C. this week. That could get very interesting as well. But first of all, a couple of top news stories around the country and around the state. Going to talk in a minute about Wisconsin Senate Republicans. They voted for putting this referendum up in April on voter ID. But now it comes out over the weekend, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, the Wisconsin State Senate will not have a designated election committee. Say, what? I love these guys. I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but we'll talk. Why? If you think there's a problem with elections, wouldn't you want to have an election committee? So we'll talk. You would think. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute as well. But I want to lead off today with, again, the national story, as it should be, out in Los Angeles. The National Weather Service, according to The Hill, has issued the most dire warnings as winds pick up in the fire-scarred region of Los Angeles, California. Federal meteorologists have issued their most dire wildlife fire warnings for Los Angeles and Ventura counties as winds threaten to pick up through today into the hours of tomorrow and through Wednesday, alerting residents to a, quote, particularly dangerous situation, unquote. The National Weather Service Los Angeles branch described extreme risk and a need for, quote unquote, immediate action in 3 expansive areas that straddle these counties. It says, quote, heads up, strong, locally damaging northeast easterly winds will affect West Los Angeles County and much of Ventura County through Wednesday, the meteorologist warned. Critical fire weather is expected, so please, all in caps, have multiple ways of getting notifications in case new fires occur and prepare ahead of time, unquote. This is the first time that the National Weather Service Los Angeles branch has issued its most severe warning during the current spate of wildfires, according to the Los Angeles Times. As of this morning, 3 fires spanning 10 or more acres were burning, down from 5 on Friday, although many smaller blazes also dotted the border of Los Angeles metropolitan area. The Palisades fire, which has decimated the Pacific Palisades neighborhood, began on Tuesday morning and now has expanded to 23,000 acres plus. The blaze is only 14% contained, according to CAL FIRE. The Eaton fire, burning north of Pasadena, began on Tuesday night, has ballooned to 14,000 acres plus with 33% containment. And the 799-acre Hearst fire, a blaze in the San Fernando Valley, also started on Tuesday night and now has 95% containment. Both the 395-acre Lydia fire and the Angeles National Forest and the 1,000-plus acre Kenneth fire near the 101 freeway in the West Hills region were 100% contained by today. Resources are being worn thin, personnel being worn thin. Our many firefighters, first responders, EMS, law enforcement, all of our service workers out in the Los Angeles area. And of note, many folks in those same areas coming from other states around California to help out. And, important to note, international neighbors. Firefighters from both Canada and Mexico have arrived in the greater Los Angeles area to help out our fellow American citizens out there. Again, we have listed it on our website, legitimate sources. If you want to give $5, $10, $100, whatever you can give, places like the World Kitchen. As you listen to these stories, again, it's beyond heartbreaking isn't the appropriate word. But people are left without their schools, without their markets, going to be a long road back for these folks. We continue to keep in our thoughts and prayers, and all of us should do what we can. Come on back. Going to discuss Wisconsin politics a bit. If Republicans are so concerned about elections, why wouldn't you have a committee to address that? It's the Allbaugh Show for a Monday on Civic Media.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Dave from New Berlin.
This
welcome.
is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters and
That's
remodeling
hilarious, Tony.
professionals in our
Are you a
industry.
graduate,
For
Tony?
You honest and hard
Of the Ohio State
love
University?
to improve people's lives by improving their homes. Chad's Design Build offers excellent compensation and benefits focused on outstanding customer service, professional design, construction management, and craftsmanship, all in a nurturing, positive workplace. Whether you're thinking about remodeling your home or considering joining our team, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
Welcome to the Lazy Oaf Lounge, Madison's East Side place for friends and family to meet for fun and food. Stop in for great daily lunch specials, soups made from scratch, and jaw-dropping burgers, wraps, and sandwiches. Plus Friday fish fry and homemade pizza cooked in a classic stone hearth pizza oven. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road in Madison. Follow them on Facebook or at lazyoaflounge.com.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. My training helps me at work when I lead by example. The Army National Guard has taught me the value of showing respect to those I come in contact with each day. My service also allows me to be there for my community in ways others can't. I help my hometown recover after nature strikes. My service in the Army National Guard allows me to keep my country and those I care about safe from threats. I also work with a network of professionals that help me succeed and accomplish the mission. Plus, the Army National Guard education benefits make getting a higher education a reality.
Wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 21 past the hour of 12 noon from the Big Gitchagumi, Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, from Green Bay to the Mississippi River, and all points in between. We welcome you into the show. Thanks for taking us with you, whether you're having lunch on a lunch break, taking care of the kids at home, taking care of mom or dad, or just enjoying a well-earned retirement. Wherever you're at today, we appreciate you coming on the show and coming along the journey with us here on a Monday. So, catching up on a couple of things for the weekend, because oftentimes it's not easy to keep up over the weekend, and we here at the Allbaugh Show do all the work so you don't have to. You can enjoy your weekend. We enjoy ours too. By the way, we had our holiday party on Saturday. That was a lot of fun, Zombers, out at the arcade. And our friends from Richland Center and Baraboo came. Got to see the lovely and talented Mrs. Phil Nee, better known as June Nee. That was a lot of fun. And you were there. That was great. And Sugar River Pizza, great sponsors.
It was tasty.
Was fantastic.
They had a lot of items that weren't pizza. Their mac and cheese was very good. And so was they had butternut squash ravioli with red pepper cream sauce.
I did not try that. Was it good?
I wasn't going to because, I was skeptical. But Luke said it was really good, so I tried it. It was actually very good.
Well, fantastic. Thanks to all the people that put that together, and cheers to everyone. All right, so here's so over the weekend, that was our big fun for the weekend. Otherwise, we're working on this show to bring you the latest information. Here now, our friends over at the great outfit Wisconsin Watch. We just had Jack Kelly on last week. Here's another great reporter at Wisconsin Watch, Alexander Schur at wisconsinwatch.org. The headline is Wisconsin Senate won't have a dedicated election committee. Now that doesn't seem right. As a former Republican who left the party in 2011 specifically over voter suppression efforts, it was the Senate Republican Committee on Elections that authored under former chairmanship of the former State Senator Mary Lozick, who came up with all these bills to make it harder for people to get IDs, restricted what things could be classified as an ID. It was all meant to suppress the vote. So here now from Wisconsin Watch says, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, the Wisconsin Senate does not have a dedicated election committee, at least not in name. Even though Democrats and Republicans have multiple legislative priorities for the election administration in the coming legislative session, that does not mean election-related proposals will languish in some legislative limbo. It does mean, however, that they're likely not all going to a single committee for hearings and formal votes, which typically takes place before the full chamber hears and votes for a measure. This now from a spokesperson for the Republican Senate President, Mary Felskowski, who's in charge of referring bills to committee. Quote, given the broad range of topics included under the general elections, quote unquote, category, bills will be referred to committee on a case-by-case basis, said the political flack for Mary Felskowski. I was once a political flack for Dale Schultz. It just means a person who is a spokesperson. It's a fancy word. Representative Scott Krug, no, not my former boss, Krug, K-R-U-G, very different people, formerly the chair and currently the vice chair of the Assembly Elections Committee. Yes, even Robin Vos still has an Assembly Committee. So Representative Scott Krug said that the Senate's opting out of a designated election committee was, quote unquote, not my favorite idea. He said that he'd prefer election legislation going to just one committee, but added that he'll deal with the Senate dynamic the best that he can. In every election session since 2009, there has been a Senate committee formally dedicated to elections, though some of them also incorporated urban affairs, ethics, utilities, and rural issues. Last session, election bills went to the Senate committee that oversaw elections along with 2 other policy areas, shared revenue and consumer protection. All right, let me stop there and step away from this article in Wisconsin Watch. It is not, and again, I worked in the Senate for many years, it is not uncommon to group different things together into one committee. Because you think, well, how many election bills are actually going to come through this committee? How many shared revenue bills or what have you? And so you try to make, and if you have a good Senate majority leader, what he or she will do is think in terms of how do these things relate, like higher ed and tech colleges, right? Or universities and tech colleges. You make the higher ed committee. So it's not unusual that you would not have a standalone election committee. But now under Devin LeMahieu, the Senate Republicans in Wisconsin won't have a committee with elections as a part of it formally at all. Back to this article in Wisconsin Watch says, this time it's not so clear which Senate election bills, or which Senate committee election bills will go to. Could it be government operations, labor, and economic development? How about transportation or local government? Or there's licensing, regulatory reform, state and federal affairs. Says Senate Republican leaders either would not say or did not appear to know, as of today, which committees might generally handle election legislation. Now, why would these people do this? Let me tell you one theory, as someone who worked in the Senate. As they point out in this article in Wisconsin Watch, one of the real powers of the Senate, so unlike in the Assembly, the Senate the Assembly Speaker, right? That's the number one person that makes all the decisions, really. In the Senate, it's really not the president, it's the majority leader who has all of the power, or the majority of the power, no pun intended, in the state Senate. However, the Senate president, one of their greatest powers, is the Senate president and their staff. They decide which committee every bill will go to. Now, normally, because whatever chamber or whatever political party controls the Senate, They control the Senate Majority Leader's office and the President's office. So when my former boss was Senate Majority Leader, he and then President Mike Ellis and also Alan Lassay worked very closely. And there weren't too many times when a bill got sent to a committee that the Senate Majority Leader didn't want it to go to. But with that power, you could also kill a bill. We'll come back, explain it, tell you why they might want to do that. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Monday, January 13th. Your calls as well, 855-752-4842 on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
There's one thing for sure. Anybody listening to this report is not getting any younger. I'm Pam Yonke with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news for a Monday. And the National Pork Board is ready to address that. Emily Krause is the National Pork Board's Director of Health and Wellness. She says as people age, their flavor profiles can change, and the pork industry is ready to address that. She said the bottom line is they want to focus on dietary needs and flavor profile.
Talking about cooking temperature. And I know that's not the most fun, but food safety and eating experience are really important to getting people to even get to that convenience factor and getting to purchase pork. And so we've really talked with healthcare professionals who we've found have been giving outdated information on cooking temperatures. That 145 followed by that 3-minute rest is going to be that best way to get a good eating experience.
That's Emily Krause. She's the National Pork Board's Director of Health and Wellness. She said while they are addressing the aging population that goes to the grocery store, the Pork Board also going to be focusing in on the next generation of consumers, exposing kindergartners to learning more about pork and giving them an idea that it can be a part of a balanced diet and it tastes good. Markets look real good on the midday. I've got numbers next.
Veltima fungicide outyields the competition by an average of 7 bushels per acre. But you've never been average. The only competition that really matters is you versus you. And with the performance of Veltima fungicide from BASF, you can take your best results even further. Beat your own record. Get every bushel you deserve. And make this your best season yet with Veltima fungicide from BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
What makes Dairyland Seed silage unique? Better. Designed specifically to maximize tonnage potential in the upper Midwest, Dairyland Seed silage products contain higher starch content and the highest level of fiber digestibility for optimized milk production. And to help get even more milk in the tank, these elite genetics are supported by your dedicated local dealer and direct access to a team of leading agronomists and silage experts. Better silage, better support, better results. That's the Dairyland Seed difference. Meet our 2025 lineup at dairylandseedsilage.com.
Dave asks, holiday party, WMDX or Civic Media? Was it in Madison? Some folks really had to travel, yes. Well, that's the thing, Dave, is this year, instead of having one big holiday party with all of Civic Media, we had several regional holiday parties. So this was WMDX, WRCO/RCE, and Baraboo, who came to Madison.
And right now, it looks like February Class 3 milk that goes into cheese.
I think this is something that will have to work out for next year. I'm imagining it'll be different.
20.03 a hundredweight. So just a brief snapshot on what's happening with the agribusiness market so far on a partly sunny Monday. I am Farm Director Pam Yonke.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Sunny and cold today, with high temperatures tapping the mid-teens and winds blustery, whipping up to 30 miles per hour, creating frigid wind chills where we're really feeling sub-zero all day, and a chance of a few flurries flying around late. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 10 degrees at our studios.
Clothes that fit your style and your life. At Equability, they adapt your jackets, pants, and more for dexterity or mobility challenges. Feel confident, comfortable, and ready for anything. Visit EQUability.co to make your clothes easier to wear today.
The John and Gordy Show.
Costco is building apartments above its stores to address the affordable housing crisis. Starting earlier this year, walking downstairs and getting a $1.50 hot dog, Sam,
Man, that's just the dream.
gives new meaning to the affordable walkability.
John, you're very excited about this.
This is my dream come true.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app.
Missed your favorite show.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is 34 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon on this Monday, January 13th, 2025. Welcome back, everybody. Glad to have you along talking about this article over the weekend. Actually, today in Wisconsin Watch, for the first time in nearly 20 years, the Wisconsin State Senate will not have a committee which specifically addresses elections, campaign elections. A little odd, in my opinion, tongue in cheek. I mean, it's very odd that for my former party, which I left in 2011, the first thing they pushed through is the voter ID bill, which, as I've said in this program, I don't have a real problem with voter ID per se to vote. I mean, I have U.S. Cellular, which I've talked about in this program, for my cell phone carrier. I can't go in and get any information, change my billing. I can't do anything with my U.S. Cellular account unless I present them with a government photo ID. So I don't have a problem with voter ID per se. What I have a problem with, and is why I left the Republican Party in 2011, because I saw behind closed doors Republican state senators, not all, but several, specifically write bills which use that requirement for photo ID as a way to manipulate the difficulty or ease of which Wisconsin and American citizens were able to vote and exercise their constitutional right. So I'm fine with voter ID as long as there are additional laws that say we're going to accept a formal student ID. Any university now creates, when you register and for classes or whatever, you get a student ID. Zommers, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of them now have barcodes or QR codes and everything that you use that within the university, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like these are super easy to duplicate or replicate or fraud. So I think the university, tech college, any sort of formal school ID should be able to be used. I think that all Wisconsin citizens, American legal citizens, should have access. I mean, you can get a free Wisconsin ID now, which a lot of people don't know. You don't have to have a driver's license. So you can get a driver's license, or if you haven't passed your classes and all that, or you just don't want to drive, that's fine. You can go to any Wisconsin DMV office and get a free Wisconsin ID. Make sure that every Wisconsinite has that. But back in 2011, I witnessed as some of these Republican state senators intentionally wanted to make it more difficult to get an ID or a driver's license. So by discouraging particularly black and brown folks in places like Milwaukee and Madison, and on college campuses across Wisconsin, two demographics that, not as a monolith, but more often than not, tend to vote more Democratic. And so it was meant to suppress the vote. At the very least, we should be having thoughtful discussions, debates, public hearings that are broadcast on Wisconsin Eye, the Wisconsin version of C-SPAN, and media should be able to cover these in the light of day. And now comes word from this article on WisconsinWatch.org today that Republican Senate Leader Devin LeMahieu, in conjunction with his colleagues, are not even going to have a committee that formally deals with elections and campaigns. And you'd say, well, why is that? Especially since they're so amped up and think well, of course, there really isn't a big problem in Wisconsin with voter fraud, but that's why they claim to be pushing this voter ID bill or a referendum going on the April ballot. So if they really thought there was a problem or an issue with voting in elections in this state, wouldn't you think that they would at least formalize and say, we're going to name a committee to deal with those issues? My guess is, based on experience, the reason they don't name a committee that deals with this is therefore the Senate president, along with the majority leader Devin LeMahieu, they can secretly assign bills on elections to various committees, which makes it harder for the general public to track and makes it harder for the legacy media, which is already overworked in the Capitol press room, to keep track of this as well, which means there'll be fewer opportunities for Wisconsin citizens to go in and have their voices heard at committee hearings, therefore less public input, therefore less opposition, which means that Republicans in Wisconsin State Senate can try to push through some of the most egregious voter suppression bills without it being noticed until it gets to the floor of the state Senate, and by that time it's too late. And again, this is really, it's unfortunate this is happening, but it gives me an opportunity to lay out for you from one person's perspective, mine, why I left and why my party and why I think the Republican Party of today has so many issues. And not to say that the Democratic Party doesn't have their own issues. I always was raised from my political mentors that you should win elections based on your ideas. And you should go to the general public, the electorate, and say, vote for me or for our party because we most represent ideas that are going to address the concerns of our community, state, and nation. Not tearing down the other side. And the problem that has happened with the current iteration of the Republican Party is they have reached, and believe me, they're not stupid. They look at the same polling and everything else that everybody else has. They know that many of their ideas do not connect with 50% plus one of the electorate. So the way that you then win elections is by spreading misinformation and or suppressing the other side's vote. And these so-called, apart from voter ID, but the rest of these bills are meant to suppress the vote. And now we have evidence today that Senate Republicans aren't even going to have a committee to deal with elections. So I just wanted to pass the information on because I think, some of these Republican representatives, everybody, regardless of party, legislators have town halls, at least some of them still do, and go out. They have listening sessions now, quote unquote, where they come in and they say, like Howard Markline in Southwest Wisconsin, I'm really here just to listen. And so they ask him questions. Well, I'm just here to listen. And they're never held accountable. Hold your legislators accountable, Republican, Democratic, Independent. But ask your Republican state senator why they don't have a committee for elections this session. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Jack in Merrimack. Jack, it's always a pleasure. What say you?
Well, first of all, it just totally amazes me that with the huge amount of voter fraud that we have in the state of Wisconsin, they don't have a committee to deal specifically with that.
Right.
Of course, the chief fraudster convicted of felonious financial fraud got elected to the presidency. That's probably why they don't need to bother with it this time around.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of useless and voter suppressive legislation. It needs to be dealt with, and it should have been dealt with in the beginning of Biden's term, but it needs to be dealt with at the federal level. We need a federal law that states absolutely, unequivocally, and clearly that every adult American citizen has the right to vote, and that any law, regulation, or activity that interferes with that right is null, void, and illegal.
Right.
And, I mean, you can specify things, like egregious gerrymandering. Gee, I wonder where that's happened. Ridiculously demanding voter ID. Atrociously demanding mail-in absentee ballots. In Wisconsin, a wife can't even hand in nor legally mail her husband's ballot. Excuse me?
Right.
And I mean, I've been an observer for the League of Women Voters in several elections, and I've seen people come in with their spouse's ballots, and theirs gets accepted, their spouse's does not, even though it's a sealed, signed, and certified envelope. They can't hand that in. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous, and let's not even go into purging tens of thousands at a time from voter rolls or moving polling places around. I've had to change my polling location where I vote at least 3 times in the last 5 years. And the removal of certified they're called drop boxes. That's they're certified ballot collection box. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's got to stop. Somehow we need to get that taken care of at the federal level.
Appreciate the call, Jack. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Robert, listening in beautiful West Dallas on WAUK down in Waukesha. Robert, thanks for calling in. What say you?
Hi, Todd. Thanks for taking my call. What says to me is I wish Governor Evers would use the power of the executive branch. These guys love it at the federal level, but at the state, they keep trying to weaken the governor. The elections and the new reality with fair maps is you have a 15-18, but these committees are not representative. And I would like Governor Evers to tell them full stop. Anything you send over here is dead on arrival until we get committees that make up or represent the actual representation on what people voted for. People did not vote for LeMahieu or Voss to run everything. They lost seats. So let's get into reality here.
I mean, I appreciate your outlook on being more representative. I agree, but it's just the executive branch should not, in my opinion, be messing around with the legislative branch and telling them how to run their committees. No more so than the legislative branch should tell the governor how to run his committees or his agencies, that sort of thing. And also the other point is, I've been around long enough that when Democrats controlled the state Senate, I mean, the committee makeup was the same. I mean, it's just the tradition of how they make the majority always controls the committees by at least one. That's just the way it goes. And so.
Yeah, and that's fair. But if you look at finance and you have like an 8-4 split, that's no way representative.
Well,
So
I
Democrats
totally agree. But when the Democrats ran the assembly, it was the same thing. So that's the way the legislature has gone for quite a while. But I appreciate the call. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Watching on YouTube, Chad says, shout out to the Wisconsin Dems for proposing a massive zero bills to start the session. Odd that you don't mention that. Well, I just did, Chad. How about that? Look, no, I mean, I talked on the show last week. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, or tuned in. Don't expect people to tune in every day. But my criticism of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin was, if I would have been them, I think it would have been more effective to meet Van Wongard, the chairman of the committee that did hear this bill or the referendum, to say, look, we get it. We agree. Only American citizens should be voting. We agree with you on that. So we could go along with voter ID, but Senator Wongard is a former law enforcement officer. When you also agree that we should have law-abiding citizens, American citizens, have it as easy as possible for them to legally vote, Make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. Put him in a box. Put the Republicans and Van Wangard on the defense rather than Democrats playing defense all the time. And I agree with you. I agree with you, Chad, that I'm sure that they do have a legislative agenda, or at least I would hope they do. But have I seen or read that specifically? No. And I think, again, that's where you have to have people that say, hey, here are the three things that we're going to work. I mean, we had the lieutenant governor on last week. That's why I'm so impressed with her. She didn't waste time on divisive stuff. She right away out of the box said, I think that we can work with Republicans on housing. And that's something I don't care if you're in Amory or if you're in Milwaukee. Rural, urban, housing is a major issue. And that's what our legislature and our governor should be working on together. 855-752-4842. Back after this is the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison's Real News and Great Conversation, 92.7 WMDX. Matt Nair on air.
It is our 1 year anniversary here on Matt Nair on air. Thank you, Greg and Calvin, for being on this journey with me. It's been great.
Thanks for having me. I can't speak for Calvin.
I'm always thrilled to be here.
Unbridled.
The enthusiasm
enjoyment.
brimming over from you, Calvin. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you.
Matt Nair on air, weekdays at 11 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
I drew my brother's name one year, and we went to the mall, and I said, hey, while you're in there, grab me a Christmas card. We're doing the gift exchange later. So he walks upstairs, gets the card, hands it to me. I sign it, Merry Christmas. Love, Pete. And that was my gift to him. And I made him pick out, pay for, and retrieve. He's like, you are the laziest, cheapest. It was absolutely beautiful.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Out here in the middle of these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. That's how it feels when you're struggling with your mental health. But you don't have to feel alone. Find more information at loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic.
Wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 9 before the hour of 1 o'clock on Monday, January 13th, 2025. Looking forward to hour number 2. We have a what's worse for you. What's worse on driving. Want to weigh in on that? And then Zommers knows I'm very excited about this. We're talking Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, in hour 2. At least partly.
I am also looking forward to that discussion.
This is going to be fantastic. Great week to this. Great way to start the week. Dave, listening out of New Berlin, texting in on the text line. You can too on the Civic Media app. Simply download it for free on your Apple or Android device. Dave in New Berlin says, shout out to Todd for entertaining those that disagree. It's easy to talk to someone that always agrees with you. You're doing hard work and reaching out. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. But that's really the ethos of this show. I welcome people that disagree with me because, you know what? It turns out I'm not always right. Surprisingly. But that's one of the goals this year. I mean, I think we did an okay job last year of welcoming different voices on this show. That's really one of the key goals here this year is to welcome voices to differentiate. It doesn't mean we're always going to agree. It doesn't mean I'm going to endorse someone else's position. But we should be able to openly talk about things even if we disagree. Because and again, I go back to what I learned with Trigby and with Jane McNair. By the way, congrats to Jane. I heard today that they've got like cool hats now. And I say, God bless her. She deserves it. Because, I mean, she's worked in this. She's a legend in the industry. We're
Absolutely.
just a little dog and pony show over here just trying to make ends meet. So, God love her. I heard they're very stylish.
I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. But when Jane and I were driving around the state on our tour, and Trivy Olson and I have done several of these, the What Makes Wisconsin Great tour, there are so many, and I know this is trite and cliche, but I've found out myself it's true, that there are great folks all across this state that may vote for different people come November, but still contribute to our local communities. They give to local fundraisers for the local public schools, which are our communities. They're helping out at the blood drive in town. They're working and volunteering at the local thrift store to raise money for folks in need. They're working in community gardens. And I want to focus more this year on those folks. And because they come from both political sides of the aisle. And it doesn't mean I'm going to give up my opinions on politics. No, we're going to talk about those, but hopefully we'll do it in a respective way. One other note from state headlines of the weekend, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the State Building Commission, which had stopped once again UW-Madison's engineering building because it turned out Chancellor Schmidt up there at Eau Claire saved $70 million. His new science hall up there came in way under budget. And so the building commission, which is run by the governor's staff, essentially, although there are legislators on it, the building commission a couple, 3 weeks ago said, wait a minute, hold on here. You got to explain where this savings came from and why you're taking the savings from Eau Claire and divvying it up somewhere else, because there was no transparency. Well, the building commission has now approved funding for UW-Madison's engineering building. The commission approves revised proposal to shift unspent funds. The new proposal broke up the $70 million left over at UW Eau Claire into two chunks, requiring 2 votes. It was a unanimous vote to send $29 million to the engineering building here in Madison and $5.4 million to Stout and $10.5 million to UW Whitewater. On a 5-3 vote, it shifted $25 million to a small project fund. Governor Evers, quote unquote, bemoaned, quote unquote, unnecessary delay on critical projects, a central part of Wisconsin's ability to compete, recruit, train, and retrain talented workforce. And he said, quote, it's absolutely essential we support the UW's important work. I agree with you, Governor, that we should support the work, but maybe your staff should have been more prepared and more transparent with legislators who simply wanted transparency in the process. Meanwhile, UW President Rothman on X, formerly known as Twitter, said he was thankful for the new facility and funding and small projects like upgrading elevators, replacing roofs, fire alarms, and insulation on pipes. By the way, we'll do a larger segment some other time on this because we got busy. Rothman wants more control over hiring people without region approval. You're doing a great job, Brownie. Jay.
He's doing the best he can.
He's doing the best he can. He's doing the best we can. Well, let's talk. We got a couple minutes left here. A couple other quick notes. The House of Representatives out in D.C. passed the Farm Bill over the weekend. Mark Pocan, Democrat from Wisconsin's 2nd Congressional District, weighed in on the extension via WisPolitics, saying, quote, I know we did a long extension on it, but one of the problems, and this isn't a Republican or Democratic problem, is, if we do an extension, we wait till the end to deal with it, rather than just dealing with it. It really does do a lot more for Southern farmers than Northern farmers. They actually got a lot more subsidies. Granted, a lot of the Republican members are from the South, but this is a nation of 50 states, and we need a bill that works for every farmer, including Wisconsin, unquote. Meanwhile, Republican Derek Van Orton of Western Wisconsin, who is on the Ag Committee, said, quote, "So that bill, was it perfect? No. Was it a great bill? Yes. So what I would like to see everybody do here, if you're represented by a Democrat in the Senate, which Wisconsin has Tammy Baldwin, make sure that when the Farm Bill gets to the House, they pick it up and pass it in an expeditious manner." Well, of course, that's what Van Orden thinks. Because Republicans aren't doing the hard work. They're taking old prices and making farmers and ag producers deal with that into the future. Completely impractical. Back with Hour 2 after this. It's the Allbaugh Show in Civic Media.
Madison's Real News and Great Conversation, 92.7 WMDX. Jane, Matt, Nair, and Greg Bach.
On the way,
Be right
just
back.
how much
Thank you.
money has already been spent on Wisconsin's Supreme Court race and who's funding that? We'll wrap it all up with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. I hope you can join us.
Matt and Nair on air, weekday mornings at 11. The John and Gordy Show.
Costco is building apartments above its stores to address the affordable housing crisis. Starting earlier this year, walking downstairs and getting a $1.50 hot dog, Sam.
Man, that's just the dream.
Gives new meaning to the affordable walkability.
John, you're very excited about this.
This is my dream come true.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram. This is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Inauguration Day now 1 week away. President-elect Trump will be sworn into office for a second term. Homeland Security naming presidential inaugurations as a national special security event. Matt McCool is special agent in charge for the Secret Service in D.C.
This designation allows the federal government, along with our state and local partners, to use all available resources to implement a comprehensive security plan.
Senate confirmation hearings, meantime, getting underway this week for more than a dozen of President-elect Trump's key cabinet nominees. In Southern California, fire crews and residents bracing for another round of gale and hurricane-force winds. Firefighters are racing to gain control over the Eaton and Palisades fires, blamed for at least 24 deaths. Apple resisting demands for the company to end its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, also known as DEI initiatives, and a tsunami warning has been lifted after an earthquake in southwestern Japan earlier. This is ABC News.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Dane County Executive Melissa Agard has a challenger this spring. She just won the seat in November, but that was only to finish out Joe Parisi's term. Now, Stefan Ratzlaff has filed to run against her April 1st. Ratzlaff is a salesman at Steinhafels. His campaign is based on lowering property taxes. He's previously
Kind
run
of kick
for
off
state
with
assembly
the
twice,
Mike
both
Gallagher
times
stuff
as
here,
an independent.
or the TikTok.
Meanwhile, we now know Madison's District 18 will have a new alder. That's the area currently represented by Charles Miadze. He's currently facing a handful of charges, including strangulation and suffocation, substantial battery, and false imprisonment. Multiple women have accused him of harassment and abuse, and an independent investigation found them credible. Miadze has been censured by the Common Council and removed from his committees, but he had waffled on whether he'd run for re-election. We got our answer when he missed last week's filing deadline, so it was extended until Friday at 5 p.m. 3 people are now vying for his seat: Carmela Glenn, Anthony McNally, and Kevin Monroe. And Congress passed an extension of the Farm Bill, a relief for many farmers, but that means they're working with benefits and prices that were negotiated 6 years ago. On top of that, President-elect Donald Trump has promised to cut government costs across the board. Add potential tariffs to the equation, and experts are worried about the agriculture industry. Paul Mitchell, ag and economics professor at UW-Madison.
So my real worry is that agriculture will be collateral damage for the new administration as they pursue other political priorities where, agriculture is not their number one priority. And they will take the cost of agricultural hurt to address these issues they want to address that would partly help them get elected.
Old prices aren't the only problem with extending the Farm Bill. Mitchell says crop insurance and conservation programs are at risk too. SNAP is also at risk, even though it's already offering benefits too low to help those who need them, according to the Urban Institute. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Packers season ends in Philly. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Packers losing to the Eagles 22-10 in the first round of the playoffs. Several Packers players on offense had to leave the game with injuries. Left guard Elton Jenkins' arm went numb with a stinger. Romeo Doubs with another concussion. Center Josh Myers with a possible fractured leg. And what happened to receiver Jaden Reed?
I dislocated my shoulder, so I tried to go back in, but after I realized I physically couldn't, the trainers did a great job of taking me to go get an x-ray and everything.
So the Eagles advance, and they'll play the winner of tonight's game between the Vikings and the Rams. I spoke to Eagles running back Saquon Barkley.
That's football, man. They're a good team. Got credit to them. They did some good things. They're a well-coached team. Got a lot of great players. But at the end of the day, stats don't matter. Only stats that matter is that win column.
NBA, the Bucks' 3-game winning streak snapped with a 140-106 loss to the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
Sunny and cold today, with high temperatures tapping the mid-teens and winds blustery, whipping up to 30 miles per hour, creating frigid wind chills where we're really feeling sub-zero all day, and a chance of a few flurries flying around late. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 12 degrees.
I'm hungry. What's cooking?
Oh, no, not me. It's your turn.
Oh, we're back to taking turns?
Yes.
Well, how about Sugar River Pizza?
Oh, yeah, now they can cook.
I could really go for some of that 12-hour smoked pulled pork.
Ooh, and some pasta. Okay, now I'm hungry. Sugar River, here we come.
And they have that great kids menu, too.
We don't have any kids.
Right. That's beside the point. The point is, I'm hungry, you're hungry.
Let's go.
Yes. And we should talk about having some kids.
Get in the car, Bob. Sugar River, Sun Prairie, Verona, New Glarus, and catering.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding a unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
That's Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer and engineer on the board. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program. It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Little sun out here in Madison, hopefully where you are as well. It's cool. It's nippy. It's also January 13th, as it turns out. So, as it turns out, pretty normal weather for January. Just bundle up a little bit. Don't stand out too long in that cold. You can get a little bit of frostbite, but at least the winds are not too bad right now. Not too much wind chill. Of course, very different story out with our friends in Los Angeles, as more high wind warnings are set for today through Wednesday. Lots of people in the greater Los Angeles area still under notice. Lots of people on edge. So thinking about all those folks, sending our thoughts and prayers. And again, we put on our show page places where you can help out at any dollar level. Places like World Kitchen, Jose Andreas' World Kitchen, because it's not just shelter. It's water, food, toilet paper. A lot of these folks left thinking, well, we hear this all the time. Okay, fine, we'll evacuate and we'll be back tomorrow. And they went back the next day or 2 or 3 days later, and everything was gone. Everything. So it's a tragedy, and we're thinking about all those folks out in Los Angeles. Coming up in a minute here, we're going to do a What's Worse for you, focusing on driving. Talk about that a little bit. Might get a little bit of there's a full moon tonight. So this afternoon, like at 5 o'clock. The wolf moon.
And it's the 13th. May not be a Friday, but still.
It's still a 13th, right? So the full moon's going on. And also we're going to talk not just Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, but films that have been named now to the National Film Registry for 2024. Some of my favorites. And we'll see if they're your favorites as well. Give you a chance to call in and talk about that. We're going to play one of my favorite scenes from Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. It might not be what you think.
Honestly, though, I'm surprised that a lot of these movies were not already on it.
Really? Yeah. I'm not. We'll talk about it here coming up in the segment. I want to get to this other story we touched on, or at least said we mentioned in hour one. I want to make sure we get to it because I know for many people it's actually pretty important. I am not a TikToker. Zommers, are you on the TikTok?
I am not.
Really? That shocks. Well, I guess not totally, but you're a young person. But for those that don't know, TikTok is another social media platform that so very many people have on their phones. In fact, I did not know this until I did some research for the show, but the most popular influencer marketing channel is TikTok at 56%. Coming in second, Instagram or Insta at 51%, Facebook at 42%, YouTube at 38%, and Snapchat, or Snap, as the kids say, at 17%. So TikTok is the most popular influencer of marketing brands in America.
That tracks. That makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of people have, and it's most of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Most of this is what we would say short form videos. They're not. You don't usually put a 10 or 30-minute video on TikTok.
No, it's like 30 seconds or less to 2 minutes, maybe.
Right. 2 minutes is kind of a long TikTok.
Very long for TikTok.
And so they're innovative and they're creative and it's graphics and the kids love it. Not all kids. My friend Kurt, my age, he gets a lot of recipes off of TikTok. He likes it for that. Well, anyway, TikTok's fate, according to CNN, in the United States is now in the hands of the Supreme Court, and things are not looking good for the app. The Supreme Court on Friday heard oral arguments over the law that could ban TikTok in the United States. The law, signed by President Joe Biden in April, requires TikTok to be sold off from its China-based parent company, ByteDance. That's the name of the company, or it will face a ban in the United States. The hearing did not seem to go well for TikTok on Friday, making it more likely than ever that the ban will go into effect starting on January 19th. That is this Sunday. Most of the Supreme Court justices appear to be likely to uphold the law, lobbying that is, tough questions at lawmakers. Try that again, Todd. See, I got to get the new glasses on. Let's try this sentence again. Most of the justices appeared likely to uphold the law, lobbying tough questions at lawyers for TikTok and its users about the relevance of their argument that the law violates the First Amendment. And interesting to note that this bill passed, was signed into law. This bill passed on a bipartisan effort. This is not just Republicans or not just Democrats. There were people from both sides that voted for this ban. Joe Biden and Democrats signed it into law. I want to play a clip from CBS this morning. I believe this was on Friday on their third hour with Vladimir Duthier. I'm not sure who the other anchor is. And they had on former Wisconsin Congressman from Green Bay, the 8th Congressional District, Republican Mike Gallagher, who was the chairman of the committee in the last Congress who looked at this issue. Here is former Wisconsin Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher on CBS talking about the TikTok ban.
Well, certainly there's massive amounts of evidence that the Chinese Communist Party has done everything possible to spy on Americans, and TikTok is just one element of that broader campaign. Think, for example, of all the revelations surrounding Salt Typhoon and the compromise of our telecommunications infrastructure. So there is no doubt that the CCP wants to spy on us, and Xi Jinping has talked openly about short-form video, about information dominance on the smokeless battlefield of ideological warfare against the West. As for TikTok-specific evidence, every single cabinet official came before my committee in the last Congress and testified as to the national security threat posed by TikTok, which is twofold. There's the espionage threat, but there's also the propaganda threat. When your foremost geopolitical adversary controls what is increasingly becoming the dominant news platform in America, the risks of their ability to manipulate and change content, and we also have new peer-reviewed research suggesting they are doing just that, is too great, which is why we are insisting on a divestment, not a ban. Simply change the ownership, and TikTok can continue for the 170 million Americans who use it today.
So think 170 million Americans are on TikTok. And this is where it gets a little bit sad, or more than a little bit sad. Like so many industrious Americans, there are people who have made businesses out of TikTok, creating, as they say, content. When you hear someone say, so-and-so's creating content, in layman's terms, it means creating videos. I know that's a simplistic look at it, but creating videos for whether it's recipes or whatever, and then you put that on TikTok, and if you get so many subscribers, then you get ad revenue off of that. And there are people that either from direct ad revenue or from the marketing they do via TikTok that's basically their life as far as their income. So there are people out there that if this were to happen on Sunday, their income would be cut off. But I thought that Gallagher did a really good job of explaining why this happened. Number one, the fact that China, this company is owned by China. We most reasonable people will agree that anything that's owned and Chinese based in some way, shape, or form is controlled by the communist government. So the fact that the communist government is able to disseminate propaganda to 170 million Americans in this country unchecked, that's a problem. And also some of the things that they're other things they're putting out there. So, and again, the bill simply says they have to change ownership, that a Chinese company can't own it. There, according to CNN, there are a lot of lingering questions about how the ban would work in practice because there's no precedent for the U.S. government blocking a major social media platform, and how much the government plans to enforce it remains unclear. Even TikTok attorney Noel Francisco seemed uncertain about how exactly a ban would go down. They said, quote, on January 19th, as I understand it, we shut down, he said. Beyond being unavailable in app stores, quote, what the act says is that all the other types of service providers can't provide service either, Francisco said. So essentially what they're going to say is that I think we're not going to be providing the services necessary to have you see it, meaning TikTok. So it's essentially going to stop operating. I think that's the consequence of the law, unquote. There's, again, because this has never happened, there seems to be, for people that have TikTok, will they still be able to kind of share videos, or is that what you call them? Or do you call them TikToks?
I just call them TikToks.
All right, TikToks. Thank you. Thanks for helping the old guy out. So, I mean, if you have the app, but it appears now that if this goes through on Sunday, no one else will be able to install TikTok on their phone. No new people will be able to do it. You won't get any updates, and there may be interruptions in service. So the question to you, Aaron Zommers, should the show, i.e. me, get on TikTok before it expires?
I think you should take out a small loan of $1 million. No, just a small loan. Buy yourself a new phone, download TikTok on it, and wait until next week and sell it for twice the price you bought it. If you can't download TikTok.
People probably are going to do that.
People are going to do that. And don't buy those. Please don't buy those.
I could buy a burner phone. I just got a new phone a couple months ago. Not going to get another new phone. But I could get like a $30 burner phone, I guess, and put it on that.
You could, but don't be one of those. Don't be a scalper.
Well, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just saying, because look, it's the top influencer marketing brand. 56% people are on the TikTok.
I mean,
we're not on the TikTok.
Is that we should?
The answer is that we should.
I think so.
From our young producer, Mr. Aaron Zommers. All right, time is ticking, pun intended, to get this. We'll have to figure this out. Because I feel like, because we've been contemplating this, whether the show should be on TikTok or not. I just don't know whether I would be a good TikToker.
I think so. I think when you do your videos, like vlogs almost on Twitter, that they're good. And
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
you'd be able to do them
I
often.
could call myself on TikTok. Do you have to have a screen name on TikTok?
I mean, you have some kind
Or
of
at
username,
a
yeah.
handle? I could call myself Captain Hook, like in Peter Pan, because, the alligator, TikTok.
I was going to say Todd, but that works
Oh,
too.
Todd. Well, was it you or somebody else?
No,
that
someone
said-
else came up with that.
Yeah, Todd. That was really good, actually. All right. Will Todd be a thing by the end of the week? Stay tuned. We'll let you know. Come on back. We're going to give you a what's worse on the other side about driving. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
This is Madison's Real News and Great Conversation, 92.7 WMDX.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. As we approach the 15th anniversary of the U.S. Supreme Court's Citizens United decision, we consider the estimated $15.9 billion spent in the 2024 campaign. While still tallying up the total, money and politics watchdog Open Secrets estimates the 2024 election cycle was the costliest ever, surpassing 2020's $15.1 billion. For context, the $15.9 billion estimate is larger than the state budgets of New Hampshire, Vermont, and Idaho combined. Only 24% of political contributions to candidates were small donations of $200 or less, down from 30% in 2020. When you consider contributions to PACs and other outside spending, that percentage drops further, with only 16% from small donors. The top 1% of donors, they contributed an estimated 50% of all political contributions. That means by far our elections are not funded by citizens who actually vote, but by wealthy special interests and corporations whose interests may not align with the majority of voters. Open Secrets projects that outside spending alone, mostly by super PACs, will reach $5 billion. Now that the election is over, it's the inaugural fund setting records. The New York Times reports that donors to the Trump inaugural have contributed over $170 million. More on that tomorrow. We have more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org.
I'm Dr. Jasmine Zapata, Chief Medical Officer for Community Health at the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. Every year in the U.S., about 21,000 lung cancer deaths are caused by radon, an odorless,
Russia can still do
tasteless,
propaganda
and colorless gas.
wherever,
1 in
even
10
if they don't own the
Wisconsin
platform.
homes has high levels of radon. Does yours? Call 1-888.
You get a fast car, I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to prove.
You know, this is one of my favorite songs.
I do.
Little Tracy Chapman.
You got a fast
car.
I got a
I love her voice.
It is really a great voice.
It's fantastic. We're going to be talking about fast cars and slow cars in a minute. First of all, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. I don't know why, serendipity here. Whenever I hear that song, maybe because I should check and find out when. So there's Tracy Chapman there. And then what's the other song? All I Want to Do is Have Something Fun.
Oh, yeah. What's that called?
Did they come out the same year? Fast Car and Sun Coming Up Over Santa Monica Boulevard. Who sings that song? I have it right in the tip of my tongue and I can't say it. Mad cow disease. That's the problem.
Sheryl Crow, All I Want to Do.
Yeah, All I Want to Do by Sheryl Crow. See if those two songs came out at the same time. Because I've said this before. When All I Want to Do by Sheryl Crow came out, I was visiting my friends out in Los Angeles, literally driving down Santa Monica Boulevard. It was one of the best experiences of my life. It was just surreal. I was going by some iconic places in Los Angeles. So I don't know why those two songs are kind of inextricably linked in my psyche.
Fast Car was originally released April 6th, 1988. All I Want to Do by Sheryl Crow, originally released July 12th, 1994. So 6 years apart.
6 years apart. But yeah, there's still a popular song. Anyway, serendipity as our friend L.A. Tom out in Los Angeles, California, calling in. Tom, always a pleasure. Again, certainly sorry it's under these circumstances. Thanks for calling in. I assume you want to give us a little bit of update what's happening with the wildfires out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, first the winds right now are not real strong, so I'm happy about that. I mean, this whole thing is about the wind.
Right.
I said that the other day. Any right winger out there that has something to control wind, come on out. See if you can do that. 'Cause that's really all you can do. Otherwise, all our local government, our state government, everyone is doing, I mean, just an absolutely incredible job on this whole issue. So I wanted to say that. But also I wanted to say, I mean, I'm just falling away more and more from all social media, except for maybe Blue Sky. TikTok is not a problem. TikTok hasn't been the problem. The problem's been Facebook and Twitter. And for any politician to say that TikTok has to go, then they better say Facebook and Twitter need to go also.
Well, you bring up
it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. But I'm glad you brought this up because during the break, Andrew in Maine, listening on AUK, watching on YouTube, said, "Why is TikTok any different than X, i.e., Twitter or Facebook? Aside from who invested in it as an owner, I don't trust Musk any more than some random Chinese government official on telling the truth or allowing truthful information to be shared. Our illustrious First Amendment does a great job of allowing any social media platform to be used to share all the lies far and wide," unquote. So to your point, I mean, I think that's a good point. The federal government, and again, this bill that was signed into law by President Biden is a bipartisan bill. So what you feel like as a just everyday American is that, so the government is fine with social media, lying to us as long as it's an American company and not one based in China.
Absolutely. And the thing is, most things on TikTok are just people. I mean, honestly, Instagram has become TikTok. I mean, that's basically what Instagram has done, is taken the ideas, which of course is just Meta, but they've taken the ideas from TikTok. They're just videos of people, doing their own little thing, whether they're speaking or whatever. It's not, like I said, I find it the least intrusive and offensive and the least propagandized, if that's a word, than any of the other ones.
I just
try to get away from Meta completely and Facebook.
That just popped
into my. I want to say one other thing, Todd.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Well, I actually, one thing I think the Democrats do horribly, horribly wrong is messaging, of course, and I think everybody would agree with that. I think what the Democrats ought to do is they ought to get one website, which I purchased a website this morning that would actually help in this way. It's called bullypulpit.us.
All right.
And we know Joe Biden did not use the bully pulpit right.
Agreed.
But they need to have one spot, and this goes back to the wildfires as well. They need to have one spot where the people that are in government on the Democratic side can go and give actual truthful things of what is going on.
Yeah.
So therefore, all the people can go to this one site and they can see what, the different governors, whether it's Gavin Newsom, whether it's Tony Evers, whether it's whoever it is, they can go there and they can find right from the horse's mouth exactly what the situation is on the ground with different things. Joe Biden should have done this just on a national level. We know Donald Trump will be doing it every single day, talking about how great everything is, even though it'll be falling apart.
I think it's a really great idea, Tom. I think it's a really great idea. Hey, quick, before you leave, Andrew in Maine has a question for you. It says, can you please ask Tom, have you seen any fire engines from Oregon yet? If so, wave. One of my dad's engines is down there along with 74 others. Wow, that's great.
Well, That's awesome. Thank you, Andrew. But the thing that's so interesting about it too is that, you got people that are saying, "Oh, come on down to LA or come on down, from around the country." Don't come here.
Right.
We don't need more people. We have the fire crews like, the ones from Oregon and stuff like that are actually doing the job. There are some scams out there that are trying to get people to come out here. And honestly, they're going to cause more problems than they are good. Just go to the Red Cross and give a contribution or something like that. But don't come to LA unless you're coming here to go to Disneyland or something. But otherwise, we already have enough people trying to get into the Palisades right now, and it's like, why are you getting into the Palisades? You're gonna actually cause more problems.
Well, I
than
appreciate
than what we currently have.
Appreciate, Tom. I'm up against the clock, but you're welcome to the show anytime. Appreciate the real news updates you're reporting out there. Stay safe, my friend. And again, our thoughts and prayers to everyone out in the greater Los Angeles area. We'll come back and we actually will talk about fast cars, a little what's worse on the other side, but it's an excuse to play more Tracy Chapman. So what's wrong with that on Civic Media?
Madison's real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. An alert for parents. Madison police say strangers have approached kids near a school on the west side and offered them rides. This all happened Wednesday around Toki Middle School. Authorities say a student was walking to school by themselves when a man pulled up and said he was a driver for a rideshare company and offered them a ride to school. The student told police he was white and drove a silver or gray sedan. That same day, a group of kids was walking to school when a man stopped them. They said he told them to get in the car for a ride. Those students said he was black and drove a silver or gray sedan. Madison police
use
don't
fast
know
card
yet whether
coming
these
back,
two incidents are
and then
connected, so they're
I'll open
asking
up
for more information.
what's
If you
worse.
know
We'll do
anything,
that.
you can contact them or
We'll
Crime
talk about that.
Stoppers
If
or
that doesn't take off right away,
They've been adding extra
I'll say something
patrols
like,
in that area.
time now to go to our next story, and then you can
Cold
play
one today,
the
temperatures in
theme
the
song
single
from
digits and wind
Star
chills
Trek
below
2.
zero for
That'll go
much
into
of the
that
day.
segment.
And we'll have pretty much the same thing tonight into tomorrow. Temperatures may dip below zero, meaning it may feel like negative 20 when we wake up.
No, I don't want the
price of
Luke
gas
Bryan
has dropped.
version,
Here in
Andrew.
Wisconsin, our price per
Neither do
gallon
I.
is lower than the national average. Melissa
Although
Hay
their
has
duet, was it the Grammys or where was that? They
Something
did
like that.
They did a duet. I will
That was
say
good.
I will say the duet was pretty cool because it was an homage to Tracy Chapman.
3.2 cents per gallon higher than this time last year.
It means more coming from her.
Buddies say it's been a relatively
She's
quiet
just
week
so
with
cool.
little overall movement on the national average. However, the cold temperatures could impact prices if refiners face disruptions. Oil prices have climbed to their highest level since October, which could soon lead to more noticeable increases in gas prices. Once refinery maintenance season hits and refiners reduce gasoline production, motorists could see increases at the pump.
Today in Dane County, on average, a gallon of regular will cost you about $2.79, but some spots have it for as low as $2.59. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
On your
Bless you.
entertainment,
Thank
I'm Pete Schwaba. Audrey Hepburn is considered one of the greatest movie stars of all time. Ariana Grande is just getting started with her big screen career.
Bless you. Gosh, I'm sorry,
There are
folks.
rumors that she might play the
Oh,
iconic classic
shake my
Hollywood
brains
Oscar
out, what little
winner
I
in an
have.
upcoming biopic. Nothing has been confirmed, but it sounds like the Wicked actress is really interested in such a role, telling Access Hollywood that she has always been enamored with old Hollywood. Speaking of Grande, Wicked was just released on video on demand, and it's no surprise
It's
that one of the
already on
biggest
video
movies
on
of
demand?
2024 is seeing sales through the
That's
roof.
crazy.
It's still in
The film is now
theaters, right?
available to
I
stream
hope
in the
so, 'cause I
US
wanna
and
go see it
Canada.
at theaters.
I haven't
It
seen
pulled
it yet
in
either.
$26 million on its first day of digital release, according to Variety,
Wicked
and ended
already
up with
on
$70
digital
million after
release.
its
Who
first
knew?
week.
Because I had
Nice thing
gone to
about
the
watching
website
Wicked at
previously
home
just to
is
see
you will
what
not have
happened,
strangers
I
standing
typed
up
in
and
Wicked
singing
in the
along.
search bar
For
and
more shows
wicked.com
from
came up, and I
Wicked
almost just hit
and
enter. And I was like,
Wicked
no,
from
that's
6 to 8
I don't
p.m.
need to
on
go
the
there
Civic
on the
Media
work
Radio
computer
Network.
a second time.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun.
Once was enough.
It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Sunny and cold today, with high temperatures tapping the mid-teens and winds blustery, whipping up to 30 miles per hour, creating frigid wind chills.
Yeah,
where
it's still
we're
in
really
theaters.
feeling sub-zero all day, and a chance of a few flurries flying around late. I'm meteorologist.
You could still
Brittany
catch most of the
Merlot.
movie if you
Right
want to buy a
now,
ticket
it's
for the
12
1:20 p.m.
degrees.
showing.
Have you outgrown your health insurance plan?
Or if you want to leave the show early.
The previews are just ending right now. It's 1:20 show. The movie is about to get underway.
Too much for your health insurance? Would you like
Or you
to
could
have
get
better
2 p.m.
coverage
for
at a
Flicks
better
Brew
rate?
House.
Take
You know
a few
what would
minutes
be
right
funny?
now and find out if you can
We
save
could do
money
the
or
show.
you qualify
We have to do
for
like
zero-cost health
a
insurance in
show that's
your
about ready to
state.
leave theater,
Call now.
and we could do the show, our show, from inside a movie theater while a movie is going on.
And we'd be the only ones
Yeah,
there.
we'd be the only one on.
That would be really funny.
That would.
See, you could make a TikTok of that.
You could make a TikTok. See, these are the things I could TikTok about.
An expensive TikTok.
That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking. Now start screening. For an easy
30
quiz
seconds.
to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you.
So I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone.
The incomparable Tracy Chapman, Fast Car, here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Todd Allbaugh Show, 34 minutes now past the hour of 1 o'clock. The talented, the effervescent, the fantastic Mr. Zomer is on the board. It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. Such a great song. And yes, a couple of people asked if we were going to play the Luke Bryan version of that song. And I'm not, I mean, it's okay.
Or I think it's actually Luke Combs.
Or is it Luke
yeah.
Combs? All right,
Yeah.
sorry. Thank you. Yes, it is. I mean, it's fine. But and I know a lot of younger people, that's all they know. They didn't know about. One of my godsons was a big fan of that song and the new version. And I said, you know, that's a remake. Really? And then yeah. So, but they did, I think it was at the Grammys recently, a couple of years ago, that that Luke Bryan or Luke Combs and Tracy Chapman did the song together. And that was fantastic. So it's a great song regardless. Anyway, time once again here at 35 minutes past the hour for a late, but we'll get to it, edition of What's Worse. Here we go.
This or that, this or that. But of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or
Time
you can
once
get
again
with
for
that.
What's Worse. No prize money involved. Simply your chance to have your voice heard across the largest privately owned statewide radio network in Wisconsin. That is Civic Media, 11 stations across the state, covering all major marketing areas in the state of Wisconsin. Speaking of prizes, our Vice President Aaron Carreno brought in the snow blower from our Text to Win contest in December. It's beautiful. It's sitting here for the owner to come in, the new owner who won it on this network to come and get it.
Yes, brand new snowblower.
So I can tell you that these prizes are in fact real.
At least the snowblower.
Yeah, so they get given to all kinds of great people. So no prize, but your chance to call in. Here we go. What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. Download it today for free on your Apple or iPhone, pardon me, your Apple or Android device. Simply go to your app store, type in Civic Media. It'll pop up. Click on the CM logo. Takes less than a minute. It's free. It's what Gail King at CBS calls a deal. The Civic Media app. Text us. Let us know. Call in as well. What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? Tony on YouTube says fast for the likelihood of accidents alone. There you go. Zombers?
I will say it's the app. Sometimes you have people who are fast, who are texting or whatever. Sometimes you have people who are slow, who are being really vigilant. But I feel like normally Fast drivers are paying attention to where they're going, and slow drivers tend to not have any idea what's going on around them.
Really? All right.
In what I've seen. And so there's some of that. Like the fast people will be weaving in and out of traffic, and it's annoying, and it's like, get away from me. But slow people annoy me more.
Right. That's the Zombers.
I think fast drivers are worse because, as Tony said, more people are likely to die.
No, wait a minute. You're couching your thing here. What is this? What is it?
I'm saying I think that slow drivers annoy me more, but fast drivers are more dangerous.
So what's worse?
Fast drivers.
All right, very good. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? Carl, listening on WCFW, The Tap up in beautiful Eau Claire, says slow by far is worse. They cause backups and anxious drivers behind them. All right, Carl, thank you very much for your listenership up there in beautiful Eau Claire. Also, Eric in Madison on WMDX says slow drivers are more aggravating. Fast drivers are more dangerous. On balance, it's a push. Troy, our friend Troy in Mount Horeb, one of our winners before the contest on MDX, says, I'm a fast driver, so I'll say slow drivers are worse. That's a very honest answer, Troy. God love you. That's fantastic. What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? 855-752-4842. Karina listening on WAUK in Milwaukee. Karina, what's worse?
Slow drivers are the worst because they think too slow. They don't read the signs. They don't know what the speed limit is. They stop in the middle of the highway to think about where they're going. Maybe they need to turn left and right. They changing lines for, oh my God, I can do all day long. Slow drivers are detrimental for a road, and the reason is because they're either too old or they're too young, and both of them are distracted.
Okay, Karina.
Fast drivers are paying attention what they're doing.
Karina.
Fast drivers is actually calculating.
Karina.
Yes.
Can you tell us what you really think?
Well, you know, I drive all day long.
I know you
from
do.
One clinic to another, and it's just beyond. And I agree with with Summers that, you know, fast drivers actually pay attention to what they're doing. Yes, you have to pay attention to them more, but with the slow drivers, they're absolutely unpredictable because you don't know what the heck is going on in their hand when you have 45 speed limit and they go 35.
We seem to have hit a nerve with you. LA Tom, who's watching on YouTube, says this is the most passionate I've ever heard Karina.
She had to go, but yeah.
Okay, she's driving. You understand? She's a busy woman.
For what it's worth. Yeah, I do agree. They are by far more annoying, and I'm just trying to not express it as passionately so that I don't say words I'm not allowed to say.
Tom, speaking of Tom in LA, he says slow drivers are worse because they don't watch the flow of traffic. Also, slow drivers because they caused accidents by not going with the flow.
Yeah, I feel like slow drivers more often just drift between lanes or turn without signal. Well, they all turn without signaling, but it's more annoying because you have to watch it for longer.
John in West Bend, listening on WAUK there, says as a follow-up, the ones that go fast and then slow down, right? That's another one.
Yeah, he said that the ones that can't keep a steady speed on freeways, where you have people that you pass or they pass you, and it goes like 4 or 5 times in a 20-mile stretch, especially when they seem to be aggravated about it,
right?
And they go and pass you and then slow down like 10 miles per hour slower right in front of you.
What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Give us a call, weigh in, or also text us as well. Andrew in Maine, watching on or listening on WAUK, says, I will take 10 slow drivers all day over fast drivers. In a past life, I was a volunteer firefighter and saw the result of driving too fast many more times than slow drivers. Slow down, people, and smell the roses. Well, that's great perspective as an EMS emergency worker who saw the results of that. Dave, listening in New Berlin, says, if I'm driving quote-unquote slow, I'm driving at the posted speed limit. Well, that's a great point. When I'm driving fast, I'm doing about 10 miles per hour over. What's fast and what's slow? Well, Dave, you've hit it, in my opinion, a great point here. Because, and maybe this is an age thing, but, now at 55, I don't think I'm an old person. I'm not a slow driver, but you get on the Beltline here in Madison or the interstate,
People go
anywhere,
90.
Right, on the interstate, going to Milwaukee. I mean, there are yahoos that are like Zomer says, 80, 90 miles an hour, sometimes plus. That's just ridiculous. I mean, that people should be pulled over and handcuffed, in my opinion. Going 90 miles an hour like that. Going to kill someone. 855-752-4842. Lots of opinions. We're going to take them in order that you called. Larry, listening on WMDX in Madison. Beautiful Sun Prairie, the hometown of Luke Mathers. Larry, what's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers?
Well, there's good and bad on fast drivers and slow drivers. I mean, people are looking for addresses or, whatever. But the worst ones are in between, the half fast drivers.
I like that. Half fast. You're half fast. Mm-hmm. Those are the tough ones, right? Appreciate the call, Larry. Thank you so much. 855-752-4842. Martha, listening on our great station up there, home of Mino in the Mayor, every morning from 6 until 9, WGBW in beautiful Green Bay. Martha, what's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers?
I think it depends on the location, but I think slow drivers tend to be distracted drivers with telephones and other things that might take their mind off the road.
All right.
And slow drivers.
Slow drivers were. All right, great call. Appreciate your listenership up there. Beautiful Green Bay. 855-752-4842. Go to beautiful Appleton. And Jim, listening on WISS out of Oshkosh. Jim, what's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers?
Slow drivers are by far worse, and they're more dangerous. If you're going down the freeway or any two-lane highway, and you got somebody in front of you that won't do the speed limit, you're forcing everybody that's piled up behind you to try and get around you.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a dangerous situation.
Yeah, I can see that point as well. Great call, Jim. Appreciate your listenership up there in the hometown of Harry Houdini, Appleton, Wisconsin.
The greatest escape he ever made.
That's what he said. It was from Appleton, Wisconsin. No, I lived in Appleton for a summer, and we did the show up there. It used to be called the Appleton Foxes. Well, I lived up there for the summer. Now it's the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. I want to do a show there because we went there when it was cold, and they were the fantastic hosts up there at the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, and it's a year-round facility. So we want to do a show up there when it's a little bit nicer out this year as well. Lots of feelings. This is fantastic. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers? The Chuckster out of Racine down there in WRJN territory, listening on WMDX, says fast drivers are worse if exceeding the speed limit by 15 miles per hour plus in heavy traffic. Time to spin... time to spin that classic slow ride. Oh, all right, very good. Yeah, right. Do a slow ride. All right, very good. Jude, listening in East Troy, says slow lane for that, fast lane for, you guessed it, fast drivers. Right. So there is some places have a rapid, like on the left hand side, like a fast lane. Now we have one the belt line here in Madison. And fast people should stay there and slower people to the right. 855-752-4842. Fred, listening in beautiful Cottage Grove. Fred, thanks for calling. What's worse, fast drivers or slow drivers?
Well, actually both. Tailgating is the biggest problem. But
my mother would agree with you.
Now they've got the flex lane.
Right.
And if going east, people want to get off on that Stoughton Road, but they're in the flex lane.
Yeah.
They cut across.
Yes.
4 lanes of traffic.
That's crazy.
And everybody's hitting their brakes, so it's backing everybody up. But it really is. It's fast drivers is a problem, basically.
I agree with you. I agree, Fred. Thank you so much for calling. And Fred, if you're not from the Madison area, yes, it's called the flex lane, where if you want to drive fast and get there quickly, you're on the left-hand side. And Fred's talking about the exit to like Stoughton Road to go to Stoughton or parts of Monona, whatnot. And so people are going in the left lane at 80 miles an hour to get quote unquote around people. And then they try to cross all 4 lanes to the right to exit off onto Stoughton Road. And there's been really bad accidents over there. So yes, Fred, you're absolutely right. That you get my vote. Todd, listening in Oshkosh on WISS, says George Carlin said anybody driving faster than you is a maniac, and anybody driving slower than you is an idiot. Same holds true. I could not agree more. The great George Carlin, right? Conrad, listening up in Green. What is this, Conrad from Nightlight?
It might be.
Great program, by the way, every evening from 6 until 8. Pete Schwaba, Conrad doing a great job. In Green Bay says, I can't stand tailgaters. Well, yes, you and my mother both. And yes, I agree. Tailgaters are a really bad problem. All right, come back. Talk a little Star Trek 2 and movies after this on Civic Media.
Welcome to Madison's Real News and Great Conversation, 92.7 WMDX.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. The beginning of the year means a new session for the Wisconsin State Legislature. Members of the State Senate and State Assembly were sworn into office on Monday, January 6th. There are a lot of new faces in that group, with 6 new members in the State Senate and 31 new representatives in the State Assembly, while Republicans will remain in the majority.
Karina call and turn that into a promo. With the tag, the punchline is, Karina, tell us how you really feel.
After last year's elections under new, fairer maps, we'll see if those smaller majorities lead to more compromise in a legislature that's been dominated by the right for nearly 15 years. Just a handful of seats make the difference now between a Republican and Democratic majority.
Start with the question and then Karina, and then let her rant for a while. And the tagline is,
tell us how you really
feel. Districts. And in a healthy democracy, that's the way things should be.
Find all of Dan's work at the Recombobulation area and on our website at civicmedia.us.
Hey there, it's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute. Central Heat.
I imagine you weren't planning on mentioning it, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre also getting added.
Well, you can mention that. No, yeah. I'm just not a big Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan.
Understandable.
Plus more when we're heating rooms that we aren't even using. One
of my favorite horror movies.
Is it really?
Is to lower your thermostat and use energy-efficient space heaters where you really need the heat. I'm a little retro, and I like radiant heaters. Those are heaters that just heat a specific area in a room. On average, running a 1,500-watt space heater is going to cost you about 20 cents an hour, while running your central electric furnace.
To have you behind the helm. I don't think these kids know how to steer. One of the great menu lines from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. In my opinion, one of the greatest films ever made.
I need to watch the whole thing. I've only seen bits and pieces.
I've lost. I have it on VHS. I have it on DVD. I have it on Blu-ray, and I have Paramount Plus, so I can also stream it. I bet I've watched that film without exaggeration at least 50 times. Friends that know me well, I can almost recite the script from memory.
Yep.
It's a fantastic. For those that don't know, it's the original. It's Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy. Anyway, according to CBS, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, also the Eddie Murphy action comedy Beverly Hills Cop, the romantic drama Dirty Dancing, The Social Network about the founding of Facebook, and the Coen brothers' modern Western No Country for Old Men are among the films named today to the Library of Congress's National Film Registry to be preserved for future generations. Every year since 1989, the library has selected 25 motion pictures to be preserved, given their cultural, historic, and aesthetic importance to the American film heritage. The registry includes movies from all genres after being nominated by filmmakers, academics, and fans. It's a great list of movies, and to your point earlier, I'm surprised that some of these aren't already in there.
Yeah, seriously. Like, people love movies like Beverly Hills Cop and Star Trek II and Dirty Dancing. I'm especially surprised isn't on there.
Yes. And you said a horror. I'm not a big horror guy, but what was the...
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is getting added. I'm very surprised that that's not in there because it's one of the most influential horror movies ever.
So I'm going to play now a cut. We have time for this? How long is it? All right. So very quickly to set it up, Captain Kirk, who in the movie has now been promoted to Admiral Kirk, and they're stranded inside this kind of planet-ish type of thing. They think they're doomed, and it has to do with the test called the Kobayashi Maru, the no-win scenario, that James T. Kirk was the only person to ever beat it. Here he is talking to Saavik, the protege of Mr. Spock, inside the planet, and Dr. McCoy is stranded there with him.
Sir, may I ask you a question?
What's on your mind, Lieutenant?
The Kobayashi Maru, sir.
Are you asking me if we're playing out that scenario now?
On the test, sir. Will you tell me what you did? I would really like to know.
Lieutenant, you are looking at the only Starfleet cadet who ever beat the no-win scenario.
How?
I reprogrammed the simulation so it was possible to rescue the ship.
What?
He cheated. I changed the conditions of the test. Got a commendation for original thinking. I don't like to lose.
Then you never faced that situation. Faced death.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario. Kirk to Spock. It's 2 hours. Are you ready?
Right on schedule, Admiral. Just give us your coordinates and we'll beam you aboard.
All right.
A great scene from Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. I'm not ruining anything at this point. I mean, in the movie, of course, it's where Mr. Spock ends up dying in the movie because he sacrifices himself for the entire ship. And there's a great goodbye scene between Kirk and Spock, best friends. And I've quoted Kirk's line in the, I've given eulogies at funerals. And Kirk in this movie says to Saavik at one point, he says, how we face death is at least as important as how we face life. Wouldn't you agree? And she says, the thought had never occurred to me. And Kirk says, well, now you have something to think about. Carry on. And it kind of comes back at the end of the movie that as Kirk just has this attitude that he can always beat death. He always wins. He reprogrammed this test as a Starfleet cadet to win. He doesn't like to lose. But ultimately, he loses his best friend, has to face death, as we all do at some point in life. And I think it's a profound question. It comes from science fiction, but I think it's an important question. How we face death is at least as important as how we face life. To savor it, to acknowledge it, to appreciate it, to realize that it will come to all of us. And also, I remember watching Siskel and Ebert when the movie came out. And for its time, this is long before CG, computer graphics. I mean, they built these ships, like real model ships, and the explosions, the graphics, and all this sort of thing. It's a great film. So check it out, Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. I am glad that it's been included in the Library of Congress now, in the National Film Registry. And you've heard me say on this show before, when it comes to politics and other things, I call something a Kobayashi Maru. It's a no-win scenario. You understand? You can't win.
See, I believe the test is there's a ship called the Kobayashi Maru, and it's do you save the crew or do you leave and get help? And either way, you're dead.
Yes, thank you for explaining that. Yes, it's a test that all the Starfleet cadets have to take. If you're going to be a commander, you receive a distress call from a ship in the neutral zone, and you're not supposed to go in there because either Klingons or Starfleet people could go in, but you find out there is a ship with 500 souls on board. So it's a test of character. Do you go against protocol and rescue the crew, or do you let people die? And Kirk reprogrammed it so he could do both. He doesn't like to lose. Great show today. Appreciate y'all for being here. Thank you, Mr. Zommers. Tomorrow, our friend Luke Mathers will be along with some Tuesday Tangents with Lukester and more fun and games and what's worse as well. Join us then. Thank you, everybody, for starting your week with us. Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum.
And your day will come. Keep banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. Have a great day.
Tom says, Star Trek and Star Wars don't speak to me, but movies like Rudy do. Rudy?
Have you never seen that?
No.
Oh,
what's Rudy?
I agree. I mean, see, Tom, I like all three of those genres or movies. Rudy is based on a true story about a football player at Notre Dame, which we should talk about this week since Notre Dame is playing for National Championship week from tonight.
And Sean Astin.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I cried in the theater when I saw that movie. It's a great film. Tom is right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for everybody else. We Rudy is the best. What did Tony say? Rudy is the best football movie of all time. I would say certainly one of, if not the best. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well,
all
adios.
right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.